Are you looking to take your personal finances to the next level? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not, with your host, Joseph Sangle.
Welcome to the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. My name is Joseph Sangle, and we're fired up to help you one more day in your journey with money. We know that money is not just a moment. It has moments, sometimes great moments, sometimes expensive moments, but it's also a journey. We want to prepare you for those moments and have those moments not train wreck your journey. And so I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Megan Hibbert. Are you fired up today?
Yes, fired up. Happy Monday, everybody.
That's right. One more Monday left in the month of May. It's May 24th, 2021. It's episode number what?
151.
Number 151. Seems like just a little while ago we were celebrating episode number 150. And it also seems like a little while ago.
The last episode.
There we go. And it was 100. You think about it, 152 will be exactly 1 year from episode 100 if there's 52 weeks.
There you go.
It's pretty awesome. I hadn't thought of that. So we'll celebrate that next time. I don't know. Is it happy 1 year from 100 anniversary?
I mean,
Seems
I
confusing.
think at some point they just stopped celebrating some things.
We never stop celebrating around here.
Celebrate small
There
things.
we go. So tell everybody what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, so today we are continuing our series on how to teach our kids about. And today we're talking about how to teach our kids about giving. So our question is, we're teaching our children about money using the GSIPTR.
We love some acronyms around here.
Yes, so it stands for, if you don't know, why wouldn't you know? Yes. It stands for give, save, invest, plan the rest. So they're using that approach. We're going to be working on the giving portion soon. Any tips on ways to teach them about giving? There
we go. So these people obviously have been at one of my teaching events where I spoke on GSIPTR. So they're using that technique, and they're going to be working on that give portion soon. They're looking for tips. So we're going to give them some tips. It's going to be awesome. And I love it that these parents are teaching their children about giving. It's a very important part of money. And before we dive into all that, we're going to go to one of my favorite sections of the podcast, one where I get to sing. Let's go.
Now it's time to get caught up with our current money events.
The Monday Money Tip Podcast is sponsored by the Fully Funded Life Membership Program. The Fully Funded Life Membership Program provides all you need to begin winning with money and live a fully funded life. Fully Funded Life includes 4 key components: courses, challenges, coaching, and community. Courses provide financial education. Challenges help you make massive progress in a specific money skill. Coaching is provided by the Fully Funded Life Certified Coaches through open office hours held multiple times each month. All of the courses, challenges, and coaching results in an outstanding community that help equip, motivate, and encourage you to take your next financial steps toward your fully funded life. Fully Funded Life. Courses, challenges, coaching, community. All that's missing is you. Learn more and receive a special offer for Monday Money Tip listeners today at fullyfunded.life/MMT. That's www.fullyfunded.life/MMT. Well, I'm excited to be able to bring to you a right now relevant current money events section.
Wow.
Yes, current money events. I need to get a rapper to do this. Something about the current money events.
Why? We have an intro.
If you don't follow this, you'll be living in tents.
If you've heard the intro, we have.
Whenever you listen to whatever we teach, it's so intense. I don't know. It's really weird. Did you like that? If you think there's something better, or if one of our listeners wants to sing it, that would be awesome. I would love to hear that. Anyhow, today I'm talking in a section that I will not sing again about supply demand. Is that exciting?
Yes.
Did you have any classes on economics in
Not really.
La Escuela in high school? Government and econ? Did you have that class?
Yeah, we did government and econ, but
so you were taught the supply demand curve?
Yeah. But I didn't have in college. I didn't have classes that were solely focused on it. I was a comm major.
Did you have any fads in school, like when you were a kid?
Fads?
Like silly bands or anything like that? What did you have?
I mean, silly. I guess I was a little bit after me. Oh gosh, what did we have?
Like, I know people had pet rocks. When
I was really little, we had, what are those things? They're the circle, the pet you have to keep alive.
Oh.
Tamagotchi, yes.
Tamagotchi. There you go.
Thank you.
There you go. Awesome. Being helped by our producer.
Producer
I like
Caroline's
it. I didn't know
helping me
you
out.
could get a lifeline from the producer.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm like looking at her like, okay,
I also
what?
have, I remember, different fads running through. I really noticed them with my kids. I remember Silly Bands was crazy.
Yeah.
And at first, there's limited supply. There's a whole lot of demand.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens to prices?
They go up.
Or what happens to the exchange rate of what a kid is willing to give up to give, towards that. And we've seen Thai Beanie Babies, all these different things.
Oh, yeah, Beanie Babies.
But the supply demand curve, really is in play all of our lives and affects things. And primarily it is talked about in terms of commodities, things that, really you can have multiple suppliers of them, but they're pretty much the same thing. And so in commodities such as corn is a commodity. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. So farmers don't have much pricing power. It's a commodity.
Yeah.
There's millions of farmers selling corn worldwide.
That's right.
Same thing with wheat, soybeans. But there's other things like cottonseed oil. Isn't that exciting? And
riveting.
And there's also supply demand curves for other commodities like windows on houses. Lumber,
yes.
And so I want to talk about that because, I've been kind of focused on the fact that there is a housing bubble. Newsflash, housing bubble. If you didn't hear last week's, go back and listen to it. There is a housing bubble. And right now, there is a supply-demand effect taking place. Whenever these get out of balance, whenever supply is greater than demand, what happens to price?
Supply.
Down.
Yeah.
Supply, there's way too much supply. Mm-hmm. There's less demand than is the supply. So therefore it drives down prices because it turns out if somebody, a seller of the whatever they're supplying, if they can't get rid of it, they paid money for it. Okay. They want to get rid of it, convert it back to cash. So they lower their prices.
Right.
Same thing is there's low supply and huge demand, prices go up. Mm-hmm. We see this a lot with oil prices and gasoline prices as a result. So right now, there tends to be a lot of demand for housing stuff.
Yes.
And so people are retrofitting their houses. People are buying new houses. And right now, lead time for windows is 14 weeks as we record this podcast. Mm. I mean, you can't just call and say, hey, I need this many windows. I need them in a week, 2 weeks, and get them. Yeah. They laugh you out of the building.
They laugh
and they will tell you it'll be 14 weeks, and you will also pay triple or quadruple what you used to.
Yeah.
And 2x4 stud, right now, I've bought 2x4 studs. I do different little projects at the house. I built a chicken coop, poorly, I might add. Mm-hmm. I also built a loft in my barn to store stuff because if you don't have a loft, then stuff just sits on the floor and you don't maximize the space. That's right. So I built a loft to store like the Christmas tree and stuff we use once a year, hunting gear, gardening gear, my sprayer for Roundup on the driveway areas and things like that. And I bought these studs for like $1.40, and you could just go to the Lowe's, to Home Depot, to Menards, whatever it is, and just pile them up. Mm-hmm. Well, now a 2x4 stud costs $7.
Yep. $7.
A 7/16 4x8 sheet of plywood, which used to cost under $8, now costs almost $38. And what I think is hilarious, when I checked out this prices recently on Lowe's, not picking on Lowe's, it's everybody, they said there's a 5% discount if you buy 64 sheets or more. Mm. And I said to myself, that's just like these stores where they mark up the price 500% and then have the audacity to have a sale that says half off. And you're like, I could still go to Amazon and buy it for like a third of whatever you're offering it for.
Kohl's does that.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy.
Well, you know what? People love the idea that they're saving money. Yes. They don't question what the price should have been in the first place. Yeah. So I just want to tell everybody, the reason that prices are up is because the supply-demand circle, that rotating circle, it's out of whack. Mm-hmm. And as a result, prices are up. There's things that have contributed to this. Obviously, there's increased demand. But the supply also got affected due to the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Places got shut down. They couldn't keep employees there. They had to social distance. Employees got sick. The vaccine wasn't out. And as a result, the whole supply-demand curve, the supply side got messed up. Yep. And we found out that supply is coming from around the world.
Yeah.
And there are sections of the world, even as we're recording this podcast, who are having new waves. Our friends in Ontario, we have a lot of friends in Ontario, Canada. They're back sitting in their house.
Yeah, India.
I don't think you call it house arrest, but it's house. You have to stay at your house. India.
Yeah, they have like
setting worldwide
shortage
records on number of confirmed cases. 350,000 cases of COVID a day.
Sure.
That's going to affect supply of certain things.
Yeah.
And so I just want people to understand, over time, supply-demand curves fix themselves. So if you can wait on the thing, wait.
Yeah.
Because it will get back down to a more normal, more reasonable level that doesn't break the bank. Okay? So I just wanted to share that. That's it for the current events. If you can wait, wait.
Yes. It's good. Okay, our success story this week is from John, and he attended an FLE, so that's our financial learning experience.
Is this my twin brother?
Maybe.
No. Let's see.
In the fall of 2019, and since then, he and his wife have experienced some big changes in their finances that they wanted to share with us. So, John said, in July 2020, despite the restrictions and fear of COVID, we kept a clear vision and achieved our goal of paying off our 60-month loan on a new SUV in 11 months. Then I fully paid off my college debt and made my final payment October 1st, 2020. I was officially debt-free for the first time in 20 years since graduating high school. What an accomplishment to pay off $65,000 in 15 months, people.
Woo!
Yes. Between July 2019 and October 2020. In the middle of a pandemic, he is paying off his debt. It's awesome. And he said, this is due to the tips and steps we took as a couple to apply the principles we learned from you and Dave Ramsey, as well as the large increase in annual income with my wife working a full-time job and me working a second job teaching clinicals for the nursing program in addition to my full-time job, holy moly, in the hospital. When do you sleep? Thank you again for the motivation and weekly tips to get fired up. Life is good, and God has blessed us. Cheers.
I'm laughing because I guess that was my brother, John.
But your brother works in a hospital.
But my brother works in a hospital, and I don't know if he could teach clinicals in a nursing program, although he's a nurse before he was a physician. And I don't know that his wife is working a full-time job, so I'm pretty sure that it's not him. But, hey, this is awesome.
Yeah.
John took advantage of something that happened.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happened with the CARES Act is they suspended payments and interest on student loans that were government subsidized. And they're still suspended. And that's a big deal. So instead of saying, I don't have to make the payment, they said, hey, we can make huge progress because the interest isn't eating any of our money. Every dollar we pay now is a repayment of the debt. And so they got rid of a bunch of debt. They don't mention anything about receiving CARES cash or any of that stuff. I don't know if they did or not, but I'm sure it helped them if they did. And they paid off $65,000 in 15 months. And this is what I just tell people, especially people who have excellent incomes. What would life look like if you were totally debt-free, except for your house, rung for debt freedom date? You would be able to do huge things. And instead of shrinking back in the face of one of the greatest challenges that we'll ever face in our finances, they stepped it up a notch.
Right.
And as a result, they have accomplished great things. So I'm excited. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I think if you're in that situation, you're working on rung 4, you're trying to pay off your non-house, non-business debt, and you're thinking, I don't know if I can do it. Well, borrow some of John's hope here, because John, he paid off $65,000 in 15 months in the middle of a pandemic.
That's awesome.
It's huge.
Yeah,
so you can do it too.
We call that the belief bank, right?
Yeah.
People who've experienced great things in their financial journey, they get more belief. And I say, whenever you have that, and whenever you don't have that, and you see someone who has that, ask for some grants from their belief bank. Not borrow. You don't want to borrow from them. You just want to get some grants from their belief bank because it will motivate you.
Yeah.
There's nothing like seeing fellow financial travelers making progress, because then suddenly you can say, I see myself in their story. That could happen for me.
Yeah. And I think, one thing we see is he was willing to work a second job for a time. While he's still working his full time, he was willing to work a second job so that he could pay off this
100%.
additional debt. His wife went back full time, like Minnie Mouse in your watch is telling us what time it is. But he was willing to take steps to say, like, here are the things that I need to do. It's not forever, it's for now. And here's how I'm going to make this debt go. It's great.
That's awesome. I touched my Apple Watch and Minnie Mouse started talking.
Minnie
It's
Mouse.
awesome. Welcome to the podcast, everyone.
Minnie's telling us what time it is.
This is awesome. I'm sitting in my chair sideways also, so it seems a little weird. We're trying different podcast setups. And by the way, just for everybody who's watching on YouTube, we're going to be redoing the studio, and Megan is going to be the lead designer. And so we've been looking at some things. So be on the lookout for some changes to the studio. We're really excited about it. I think you're excited about it.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
Be good.
Over the course of the summer. So remind everybody what our question is that we're focusing on today.
Yes. So today we're talking about how to teach our kids about giving. So our question is, we are teaching our children about money using the GISPTR. Try to say it as fast as I can, like you. GISPTR.
You said the GIS, though. That's awesome.
GSIPTR.
Give, save, invest, plan the rest. It's a simple little 4-part, 6-word plan for your winning with your money
approach. And we're going to be working on the give portion soon. Any tips on ways to teach them about giving?
Well, yes, we have some tips, and this is great. We really have fun with this. Megan has a 2-year-old, and I have a 21-year-old, and I have an 11-year-old, and I have a 7-year-old. And so we're kind of working as podcast hosts, we're working and navigating different phases of training our children. So Megan's kind of gathering. She's got older nieces and nephews.
Yep.
Both?
Yep.
Nieces and nephews. And so she's observing your sister, teaching them as well and learning, and from your friends who have maybe older kids. And so it's really important to kind of work through this. And that's how we learn this stuff. And we're trying to be intentional here on the podcast to put together this series of ways to teach your kids about various aspects of money. And today it's giving. And so the first thing that we want to do if we want to teach our kids about money is what?
Yeah. So first you want to model generosity.
Right. So this is not, as a model where you're doing clay models or things like that. But this is similar to like a career in modeling. But what it is you're modeling the beauty of generosity. And, you think about these modeling shows. I've never been to any of them, like the way the Rock the Runway, the fashion shows and all this stuff. I've never been to one. I've got friends who are into that. They love it. They take trips to New York and they love Fashion Week. I mean, it's just COVID has broke their hearts. And I'm like, my feet would hurt to my neck in 3 seconds at that. I can sit in a tree stand hunting deer for 13 hours in sub-freezing temperatures and call it awesome. I'm confident the way they view me hunting like that is the way I view this modeling. But what do they do? Is they have a runway, they're up above people, and everybody can see them. They're there to show off something. Well, in the same way, I want you to show off generosity. And there's really nothing more powerful than putting that generosity up on a pedestal, not so you get the glory, but in a ways that your children will see you give. Because we all know this as parents, more is caught than what is taught, right? They catch your daily stuff when you're not in intentional teacher mode way more than when you're in that mode.
Yeah, I feel like you said, Logan is 2. And so I'll catch him doing things and I'm like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, oh, I do that. Or that's how I do this. Or that's how.
When he says, "Dadgum that Joe," does he?
He does say Joe.
It's because
Joe.
It's
anytime he sees me
I just
editing a
called
video,
one of the last
Joe?
minute thing
Joe?
again.
But yeah, so it's like the way that I'm modeling things, I'm not even knowing I'm modeling it. He's picking up on that, like you're saying. But how intentional are we being with things that we want them to pick up on? Are we modeling those for them in the right way, or are we just doing those behind closed doors where they can't see it?
Yeah, that's a gulp moment when a parent sees their kid modeling maybe less than stellar behaviors. So let's make sure we have these blessed moments when they model the good behaviors, and giving is one of them. And so, like, when you give to the church, let them have a hand in it. Let them see money and let them put it in the offering. We have a give box at New Spring Church where we attend in Anderson, South Carolina, and there's a coiled up spring. I think his name is Springy. I don't know. My kids could tell me the name of him. The little
Kid
logo.
Spring.
Yeah, Kid Spring. And so my kids get to give in the box there. That's part of giving. So they get to see it. When we give to an individual, a lot of times we let them see it happen. And as they get older, as my children get older, I let them participate in the giving. And so I remember this one moment. We have in our budget, we have giving to God. And the second thing we have is intentionally bless others. IBO. Let's have another acronym. GSI, PTR, Give, Save, Invest, Plan the Rest. And we have IBO, Intentionally Bless Others. And it turns out if you put cash in an envelope called Intentionally Bless Others, you will see, it's like literally like scales fall from your eyes. You see opportunities to bless others. And I'll never forget one Christmas, I was with Malia, and this person was buying Christmas gifts with their EBT card, the food card. And I knew this because I was watching, I heard some of the conversation. I was behind them in line, and they're buying things that had food items in it, so they qualified, like chocolate-covered cherries qualified somehow as for their card.
Yeah.
And I remember them getting through it, and the person said that they owed like $7 and some change. And all of the color drained out of the mom's face. And she just panicked, and the dad just looked terribly embarrassed. And she was like, just put it back. What didn't qualify? Put it back. She was totally panicked over the bill costing her $7 and change. She had a kid with her. And Malia just looked at me, and she knew. And so she said, can I do it? I said, yes. And so I said, give them this money and just say, hey, Jesus loves you, and have a Merry Christmas. And so I took out a $50 bill, and she got to give it to them. And as they were leaving, we didn't do it right there because others could see, but as they were leaving, we did it. And she got to have a part in that and just hand it to them. They were just flabbergasted, and I'd turn away, and then she just turned around and walked away. And it was unbelievable for her to be a part of it. My son knows it. And he does not like to see us drive by anybody with a sign at the stop sign or the stoplight. Yeah. None of them. In fact, there have been times he has kind of crawled out of his seat, got in front of his mama before going into Target and saying, no. You have money in that envelope still this month. We're going back and give it to them. And, mama's got 21 things she needs to do. And stopping and going back there was not part of the process. Right. But he's like, I don't want to miss this chance. And I think that's a way you can model generosity. And I think a lot of people who think about giving, it can be difficult at times. When you see the person in the sign, you want to judge them. If they hadn't made these poor decisions in their life, whatever. But there's a verse that is in the Bible that really compels me. It says, some of you have entertained angels unawares. And Jesus is sharing the story that has happened whenever you bless the least of these. And so I just kind of say, you know what? I'm not going to sit there and pass judgment to the point that I will not bless them. And once I pass this money to them, I've been the steward that has been able to bless the least of these. Now the obligation has moved to them to be a wise steward of what they've been given. And now it's on them, not me. Yeah. And so I just encourage you, model generosity. You're driving in the car right now, listening to podcasts. You're working out, listening to this podcast right now. Put a line item in your budget called Intentionally Bless Others. You will never, I don't care if it's $5, $500, do it in proportion to how you've been blessed. Put money in that envelope. You don't have to give it away every month. It can accrue over time. But whenever you see an opportunity to bless somebody, do it. And do that with your children. It's a great way to model generosity.
Yep. All right. Number 2 is giving comes first.
So this is something you can teach your kid. Logan can learn this. Hey, whenever you receive money, the first thing you do is give some away. And whether this is birthday money, Christmas cash, if Logan has a job, because he's so handsome and he has this little modeling job for some sort of kid's toy. Has he got a modeling job yet?
No, but he should. He's
that picture
so
that you should post it of you did post it on your Instagram channel of him in the boat with his dad and his wind blown. That's a framer. And it should be framed on easycanvasprints.com or whatever it is. And you could say, hey, look, I'm going to mention them on a podcast and he needs money. If he gets this money anyhow, do you think that's a good idea?
Yes.
It's good. See, what I would tell you is by doing that and saying, anytime you receive money, give some away. And for me, as a Christ follower, I'm going to teach them, give to God, give to others first. Yeah. Because, the principle of tithing is something I teach, and I do it both intentionally and humorously. I think it's humorous. My kids don't. And here's how I do it practically. Whenever Halloween happens, we do Halloween. We trick or treat. the devil's holiday. I've never once ever had that happen ever. I like it because they get a bunch of candy and we get to see a bunch of neighbors I haven't seen in a while. We have a lot of fun with friends, and our kids get candy. And so I teach them the principle of tithing 10%, the first, to the Father. And I am the Father.
Oh, gosh.
And so I go over and I say, the first, right? So I'm like the Reese's Cups, right? The Swedish Fish, you can keep that garbage. Licorice, yeah, you can keep that. Okay, we got Almond Joys. Woo, unbelievable. 1,000 grands, right? Is it 100 grands or 1,000 grands candy bars?
1,000.
Yeah. And then you've got all these different things like candy corn.
I do like candy
A little
corn.
bit. Most people are probably grossed out that we like candy corn. But the bottom line is I joke with them. I don't take all their candy. But I always say them, you tithe to the Father. And it's just a fun way. But let me tell you something. They catch this. And they later on, the older one, kind of humorously remembers this. Kind of not humorously. But the principle has been driven home. So just teach them that giving comes first.
Yep. All right. And then number 3 is anchor the knowledge with a catchy statement.
Yeah. So anchor the knowledge. So I like fishing a lot. And do you have an anchor in your boat?
Yes.
I do not have an anchor in my boat yet.
You
This
need
is
to
a
get
problem.
an anchor.
I
That
need
is
an
a big
anchor.
problem.
It's a big problem. So I don't have an anchor. I've got to buy an anchor. But anchoring, I've been in boats with anchors. They tend to stay in one place a lot better than boats without an anchor. Have you noticed this?
This is true.
And so
you're going to have a hard time
we're
fishing
talking about
with no
anchoring
anchor.
the knowledge with catchy statements. So share with them some catchy statements.
All right. So the first one is giving is living.
Right. So when you bless somebody with something, with a thing or some money, maybe it's something you've crocheted, because I know you crochet a lot like I do. And
You really do, though.
I really do. But you give it something like today, I'm just going to tell on myself. So I took my buddy turkey hunting. He had never been turkey hunting. It was on his farm. No, not
Oh,
today.
I was like,
today.
what?
Not today. But I took him turkey hunting on opening day. And I've learned how to make the calls and all the little sneaky things that you do to try to get a turkey. And we got a turkey. He got his first turkey. It was unbelievable on his grandfather's land. It was amazing. Well, one of the things you do is you just to kind of honor the animal is you display the fan. There's a way to display the fan.
You have
And
one?
it's beautiful. I have one in my office.
here somewhere.
And I wanted to do that for him. And I know how to do that. I know how to taxiderm it, so to speak. Well, there is a guy on Etsy who can take a photograph and he laser engraves, etches through the laser and etcher on cherry wood, a picture, any picture you want. He can etch it into the picture, onto the wood.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing. So I had the picture of my friend with his turkey that morning of that hunt etched onto it, and had the beard of the turkey and the spurs and the big fan. And I got to give it to him today. And it was awesome.
He's
He's
freaked out.
blown away that his face with this turkey in that moment is like etched in wood. It's unbelievable. And so giving is living. I sit there and say in that moment, that is it's more blessed to give than to receive. And he's literally just dumbfounded. He literally is dumbfounded. He's like, oh yeah, that's going on the wall in the office. Today, I'm going straight home. I'm not even going back to the office until that's on there. Because giving is living. And think about this. When you give, how awesome is it? Okay, so then we flip it a little bit. You can say it another way. What's that?
So the other way is live to give.
Right. So if they rhyme, I find kids get them better, right? And or catchy little slogans. And right, Roy G. Biv. Do you remember red,
The
orange,
colors.
yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet? Roy G. Biv. That's the colors of the rainbow in that order. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And so live to give rhymes as well. The same thing. Okay.
Yep. All
I
right.
live to give.
Another one is helping the needy keeps me from becoming greedy.
Yep. Helping the needy keeps me from becoming greedy. And so there are times during the year when our kids go down and help in a clothing pantry, kind of donate some clothes and be able to give some of those away. We've helped in some church missions projects where we kind of put new decks on some people's houses where they become handicapped and they need handicapped accessible roller ramps instead of steps. And being able to invite them to be a part of it, whenever I say that, I don't have time for that. then I immediately remind myself, hey, helping the needy keeps me from becoming greedy, not just with my wallet, but with my time. And kids, they tend to remember these catchy statements.
Yeah.
What are some others?
Some others are, sorry, I lost my voice. Okay, the next one is blessed to bless.
Yes, we are blessed to bless. So if you have a level of blessing in your life, you're blessed to bless others. It's not just for you. It turns out they call money currency because it should have a current with it. It should flow through you, not just to you. And what I found is that the people who are generous, man, they are blessed to bless. It's amazing. You could also ask more complex statements as they get older. And I particularly love Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice. In fact, if you're a fan of The Office, Nellie quotes this to Andy Menard when he gets his office back. And it is amazing. It will grip you. This words will. I'm not joking. She's laughing at me. But here's how it goes. And it's really amazing to listen to this statement in The Merchant of Venice. It says, the quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesses him that gives and him that takes. 'Tis mightiest in the mightiest. It becomes the throne monarch better than his crown. What is it saying? When you give mercy, it's not strained. Nothing can be taken away from it. And it drops on people. And it is twice blessed. It blesses the person who gives mercy, and it blesses him that takes mercy. And then he goes on to say, it is mightiest in the mightiest. So the more your status, when you give mercy or when you give, it becomes you better than the crown on your head. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I love it. I might get moved here. And the other one is Victor Hugo's book that he wrote in the 1850s. He's a French writer, and he's writing about the disparities of great poverty in the suburbs of, or the ghettos around Paris at the time. And it's the book Les Miserables, which became a runaway Broadway show. And he says this, you can give without loving, but you can never love without giving. The great acts of love are done by those who are habitually performing small acts of kindness. We pardon to the extent that we love. Love is knowing that even when you are alone, you will never be lonely again. And great happiness of life is the conviction that we are loved for ourselves, and even loved in spite of ourselves. And I love that statement. And I really encourage you to make your teenage children memorize these in exchange for some reward. Because when you get those two things, the giving of mercy and the fact that you can never love without giving. You know, I heard Bishop T.D. Jakes once share about this fact when he was saying he hates Christmas, he hates buying stuff for Christmas, like he loves the advent of Christmas. He hates the commercialization of it. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go out with all these people at the mall. I'm not going to go buy and shop for nobody. And he's like, guess what happens Christmas Eve? I'll be back. And he said, out to buy it. Why? Because you cannot, it's impossible to love a person and not be a giver to that person.
Yeah.
And if you truly love your fellow man, you'll be known as a giver. Awesome. And so we have a fourth and final thing. Did you like my little, I went all Shakespeare on this podcast.
Get
or the
emotional
Office.
over there.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm assistant to the podcast host.
All right. Number 4 is call attention to right and good behavior.
There you go. Call attention to right and good behavior. When you see it, call it out. Acknowledge it and compliment your child when they choose to give. I will just give you a practical example. My little 7-year-old daughter, you know, she has a chore every day. She has to set the dinner table. Every day, there seems to be great consternation in her life that she has to set the table. It interrupts playtime. She's bombed out because it's first grade, and there's nothing like first grade exhausted. Maybe kindergarten exhausted is most, but first grade is still a lot of exhaustion. And she just does not want to set this table. She just does not want to do it. She does it with much anguish, and she lets the whole house know. She has this sob that is horrible, and she's very upset. Well, over the last several weeks, I've noticed that she's just done it willingly. And so every time that mama calls and says, hey, Megan, it's time to set the table, and she comes and does it, I immediately call it out when I see it. Megan, thank you so much. That's so awesome. You're doing such a great job setting the table. And it has actually changed her attitude towards it. I've seen it happen because I'm acknowledging and complimenting my child when they choose right behavior. The same thing happens when they give. And when you see them give, I encourage you to ask your child what made them choose to give, what compelled them to give, and then how did it make them feel once they did give? And what that does is it encourages them in their kindness and in their generosity. And so I just really encourage you to do that. If you're teaching your kids how to give, to be generous, you got to acknowledge it when you see right behavior take place, because we all want to impress our parents. We all want to get, attaboys, attagirls from our parents. It's the most meaningful persons in a kid's life is their parents. And when they get that, it's going to affirm that behavior, that right and good behavior.
Yep. Okay, our quote for today, Joe read it a little bit ago, but from Victor Hugo from Les Miserables.
Excellent.
Like thank you.
You must be French.
So it says, you can give without loving, but you can never love without giving.
Such a good quote. I encourage you to get your kids to learn it. It'd be good to print somewhere and look at it. And hey, we're super excited to be able to join you each and every week on the podcast. If you like today's episode, please help us get this podcast to others. If you're watching on YouTube, take a minute to like it and comment. Did you like what we shared? Are there tips that have helped you with your children in this area? Hey, we can all learn together. And if there's something you didn't like, hey, comment on that as well. And if you have ideas on our podcast studio design, we want to hear that as well, selfishly. Hey, click the subscribe button. If you're on social media, you can share it. Our I Was Broke Now I'm Not Facebook page posts this podcast every single Monday. You can just quickly hit share. And that's the greatest honor you could ever give us, is if you share it with your friends and family on your social media networks. Any last words that you'd like to share as we wrap it up, Megan?
I'm thinking through, and I just feel like families' lives are going to be different because of teaching their kids how to give. So giving to the church, giving to others, but what a cool moment it's going to be when they get to be a part of that with their kids, and those moments, like the moments that you've had with your kids. So I'm excited to have those moments with Logan. But I just think it's a cool moment that your family gets to have together.
It's the best moments. Yeah. Awesome. And so we pray that you have a great week. Go do one positive thing, and hey, look, model giving this week and intentionally teach one of these principles. You will not regret it. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit iwbnin.com. We'll catch you next time.